What is up, 444 community? Absolutely appreciative of everyone coming and hanging out with me on your Wednesday night. We're answering some start sit questions for week 10 fantasy football. Yes, week 10 fantasy football. Isn't that crazy? We are already more than halfway through the NFL season and we are rapidly approaching the fantasy football playoffs. And so we are here to answer your start sit questions both on YouTube and on X. But if you are on X, I will say this. I'm biased, but I think there is a better viewing opportunity for you. Number one, we're putting out about 5 to 6 videos a week over here on the new 4for4 Fantasy Football YouTube channel. So make sure you guys come over and subscribe to this channel as we are on the way to 2.5K subscribers, growing each and every day, posting content to help you win your leagues. We post defensive ranking videos. We post kickers videos. We have the John Paulson and Addison Most Accurate podcast that drops on Friday. We also have a mustache video as well as live streams. So if you want to check that out, make sure you come over, check out the 4for4 Fantasy Football YouTube channel. We absolutely appreciate it. But we will be answering questions right now on both X and YouTube. So as those come in, we will start answering those. And we have a bunch already in the YouTube chat. Shout out to Adam for being here early. Yo, what up, Adam? Shout out to Seawolves, E-Wayne. We got Tricks up in here. Anthony, Steven, we absolutely appreciate everyone for tuning in. So we'll start it off with question number one, and I'm already about to sneeze. I haven't even started talking more than 2 minutes, and I'm about to sneeze, but I digress. We keep this rolling. Adam comes in here, and clearly this dude has the most stacked QBs of all time. He says Mahomes, Lamar, Josh, rest of season rankings. I think it's close. I think you're talking about the QB1, the QB2, and the QB3 rest of season. But Adam, to be honest, I would just stick with Josh Allen. I think he's got the best kind of rest of season schedule, especially now, even too, like with the James Cook injury this week. I mean, that just means that Josh Allen's going to throw the ball and have to rush a little bit more than he typically would. I don't think that necessarily means Ray Davis is any, up there. I like what we see from Patrick Mahomes. Of course, it's been a great season. Him bouncing back in the top 3. We also need to see Lamar get fully back healthy to have that level of rushing upside. I mean, he looked fine in that Miami Dolphins game, gave you a fine fantasy football output, but that scrambling ability, we didn't necessarily see it on display. We'll have to see how he kind of recovers from that hamstring injury. He's still, of course, a top 3 QB, a top 2 QB for me, but Josh Allen has to be the number 1 QB for me rest of season. And if you disagree with that, anybody in the chat, let me know. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts as well. We got Mr. C coming in with a ton of questions because he always does, and he's an absolutely great YouTube subscriber. Hi, Caleb. I hope as well. Thanks in advance for the help, C. I hope I help you each and every week. I probably get some wrong for you, but like I said, I'm just a man that loves some fantasy football. C says, number 1, standard. We got 1 QB, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, 1 defense. Allen or Stafford this week? I would be going with Allen, even though it is a good matchup with Stafford. And guys, I realized I ate some chili and I somehow did not wash my face before coming on stream, so no one judge. I would go with Josh Allen there, C. And then you said 2 running backs, Barkley, Hall, Warren, Etienne. I would go with Barkley for sure when it comes to the running back rankings. If I pull up John Paulson's rankings, he has Saquon Barkley as a top 3 option this week, and I 100% agree with him there. And then the second option, I would go. It's hard. I understand it's hard to kind of like bank on Breece Hall in this matchup, but I do think I lean into Breece Hall. I understand Warren's been good. I also understand that he's probably a little bit disgruntled with not getting traded away. I would go with Breece Hall there. And then 2 wide receivers. You're going with London, and you're going with A.J. Brown. And then in the 1 flex, though, I would go with Jaylen Warren. So I would go Allen, Barkley, Hall, Warren, London, A.J. Brown. And then between the defense, between Detroit and Tampa Bay, I do go with Detroit just because with Marcus Mariota, he's probably in for at least 1 interception or 1 fumble. Now, he is elusive, same as Jayden Daniels, but not as elusive as Jayden Daniels. So I do have the Detroit Lions as a top 3 defense this week there, C. E. Wayne comes in. Eddie, appreciate you. He said, hey, Caleb, just wanted to know your thoughts on Doomsday. Should I be panicked on him? Ooh, the fact that you can score 47, 48 points and get 0 points. I will say this, Eddie, I was in a guillotine league and I got cut this week because Romo Dunze put up a big fat 0. Now, Does he go down my rest of season rankings? Yes. But he's still in the top 15 wide receiver for me rest of the season. So should you be panicked? Yes. Did you think you maybe got value as him being your wide receiver 1? Yes. If he's like your wide receiver 2, though, I think I feel better about it. So it kind of just depends on your lineup there, Eddie, and how you're valuing and how he's kind of in your overall lineup there. Tricks are for kids. What up? What up? Tricks is going to send me a start sit question that's in the mud. This guy plays in 14 and 16 team leagues, and it gets pretty nasty pretty quick in his start sit question. So, Tricks, fire those bad boys away. Anthony comes in here, said, "What's up, Caleb? Hey, what's up, Caleb, brother? How we feeling? How's everything?" Dude, everything's going good, Anthony. We feeling good? Chat, let Anthony know how you're doing. How you doing? It's going really well. We're talking football. I understand, but on this note, Anthony, though, before we get to more start state questions, I have YouTube TV. I don't know how many other of you guys have YouTube TV. This whole disagreement that's happening between YouTube and ESPN is absolutely pitiful. I seemingly had to buy 2 day passes for Sling TV, 1 to watch Monday Night Football, number 2 to watch Dancing with the Stars last night for my wife. And I'm like, I don't want to give in. I don't want to just go sign up for Hulu or Fubo because I'm just giving into the mouse. But at the same time, how much longer can I wait? Because if I keep waiting, I'm going to be missing out on some of these important games that I want to watch, especially with college football too. Let me know if anyone else is in a pickle. I know I can illegally stream, but it's like you're paying like crazy amounts of money to YouTube TV not to be able to watch sports. Kind of feels dumb. If he said, you can either drop it like it's hot or drop it like that's your choice. Anthony, you're too funny, bro. You're too funny. So he said standard defense, Cleveland or Chicago? That's a great question. So Cleveland going up against Justin Fields is a juicy matchup this week. The part that I will say is the Browns haven't necessarily been great with turnovers, but the Bears are going up against the Giants. And as much as, yes, does Jackson Dart no longer have Cam Scatterboo, I can't. He's probably going to throw for a touchdown and a rush for a touchdown at least, maybe throw for 2. And so for me, I'd rather just go with the Cleveland, knowing that Justin Fields, they only have to stop really Justin Fields from scrambling because is Garrett Wilson going to play this week? Maybe he does. They added A.D. Mitchell, and then it's Mason Taylor. Like, those are the 3 options. And I think I am a little bit worried about Breece Hall too. So they're just going to have to really rely on the scramble game from Justin Fields and Breece Hall. But I would lean into the Cleveland defense in that front 7. Steven, appreciate you being here. You said Debo, Wandell, Dubs, ETN, Montgomery, Rashad White, pick 3. I have Bucky and Gibbs. Bucky's likely out, half PPR. So if you got to pick 3 here, is this for the flex? Like, I don't need, if it's half PPR and I can just pick whoever I want. We'll definitely be going with ETN. We'll definitely be going with Rashad White. And so it kind of leaves the wide receivers versus David Montgomery. And I got to figure out where I got Monty versus my flex rankings. So it's between Monty and Debo for me, Steven. Let me figure out where I got these guys. Ooh. I think you got to go Debo. So Debo, ETN, and Rashad White would be the ways that I would go, Steven. The only thing, too, with ETN that we have to monitor is it was a decent snap share game from Bishal Tootin, but Travis Etienne still was the highest snap share in this game. He's just lacking a little bit of efficiency for me, in my humble opinion. But in this matchup this week, I would go with Etienne, Rashad White, and Debo. Appreciate you, Steven. C comes in with another question. Said standard 1 QB. Okay, between Daniel Jones and Caleb Williams. Ooh, Caleb Williams just got off a heater. So sometimes you just want to lean into the hot hand. Atlanta's defense has been hit or miss, but Caleb Williams is going up against the Giants, which I understand have pretty good pass rush, but I lean Caleb Williams there. Then 2 running backs, I would go with Barkley and Jacobs. 2 wide receivers, we'd go with London, and I'll go back to the Odunze bandwagon there, see. Just get the stack. I understand he put up 0 points last week, but then you need 2 flex. Depends on what's going to be happening injury-wise. I think Irving's out, so I think you're going to be able to just throw in Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. And then between Denver and Tampa Bay, I would go with Denver. Denver I know there's not always a whole lot of turnovers, but this week versus Vegas, I mean, with Vegas getting rid of Jacoby Myers, it's literally Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers could score 3 total touchdowns, and Geno Smith could still throw like 2 interceptions. I just lean into that Broncos defense, even though I have a lot of shares of Vashon Genty and Brock Bowers that I personally want to pop off. But you do have to be a little bit worried about that matchup. We got MH says shallow 8-team league, so lots of defenses available. What options do you like this week? Yeah, I mean, honestly, I like the Broncos. I like the Seahawks. I like the Lions. Those would be like the main 3 there, MH. So if you could get any of those 3, Broncos, Seahawks, Lions, the thing that you have to consider though, really, like, if you're like, I want one that has like longer term, value, the Seahawks have an interesting schedule, but they're on bye next week. So you do have to kind of take that in consideration that the Seahawks would just be a 1-week ad. The Lions are really a 1-week ad too. So I personally, Seahawks, Lions, if they're available, ideally if the Broncos were available, but they really shouldn't be, MH. So let me know if those options are out there on your waiver wire. And like I said, guys, we are the chat is coming in from both YouTube and X. So if you submit one of the X questions, I see those coming in too. We will be getting to those in the order that they came in. Trix says Theo, Hawk, or David Njoku for tight end. I hope it's David Njoku. That's who I'm just assuming here that you're talking about. But I lean into Theo. Lean into Theo in this matchup, Trix. I think Theo is a top 12 tight end this week. And we saw kind of him and Jackson Dart get a little bit of chemistry last week. And so personally for me, I would lean into Theo Johnson over Hawkinson. And well, Hawkinson's honestly been like dead. Just like absolutely dead this season. Going up against Baltimore, I just don't trust. He's gonna get shadowed by by Hamilton. And so for me, I want to lean into Theo Johnson there. Anthony said, I couldn't make last stream, but I want to let you know I managed to trade away Chuba, Addison, and $20 fab for Ibuka. Dude, Anthony, what a trade, bro. And I know it's showing your full name, but no, dude, crazy, bro. Maybe you're on a different account or something. I don't know. But dude, that's a crazy trade. I'm glad you got Ibuka. Pop off, King. Rest of the season's going to look really good for you. Kyle, good to see you, dude. You said trying to trade Devontae Smith for Chase Brown. Thoughts? Whew, man, I made a terrible Devontae Smith trade. This was like week 4 when he was like struggling. It felt like it was like 20 points, 8 points. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so I traded him straight up for Marvin Harrison Jr. in the league. And yes, then Devontae Smith decided to become the absolute alpha wide receiver for the Eagles. And I was just like, man, that's rough. Now, I always kind of lean in this circumstance. I always lean into the running back, especially in the similar range. I think Chase Brown's a top 20 running back. And I think Devontae Smith rest of the season is like a top 21 wide receiver. I have him in the same range as like DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, Michael Pittman Jr. And so you could probably argue it either way, Kyle. And what's good, bro? Appreciate you being here. I think I want Chase Brown here, just knowing the running back position where it's at. Like, I don't know if Chase Brown would be your RB2. I don't know if he's going to be your RB3. Hopefully he's not your RB1, but if that's the case, then 100% make the deal. But I think just being able to have a little bit more depth at your running back position, especially as we approach this kind of last half of the season. Joe Flacco has been doing a good enough job moving the ball for the Bengals. The offense has been humming. The defense just is absolute cheeks. And so I think the advantage here with Chase Brown is he is a pass catcher. And so he does get a lot of work. Now, we have seen Samaje Perine steal some of those, third down PPR roles where Joe Flacco, unlike Joe Burrow, was a little less mobile. So he checks the ball down a little bit more. I just lean into Chase Brown here. But like, if you have Devontae Smith, the question that I have for you though, Kyle, though, as we talk about this, is you could potentially be looking at, like, if you're trying to trade away Devontae Smith, you might be able to even get a better running back. Like, I would prefer Quinshon Judkins rest of season over Chase Brown. I would prefer, I'd probably prefer like a Rico Dowdle. Like, if the person that owns Rico Dowdle, I know he had a great week this last week, but if they're still a little bit worried about Chuba Hubbard, like, those are guys that I would prefer to trade Devontae Smith over. But I am cool just holding if you can get Chase Brown. Like, if that's the best deal you can get, then I'm cool with that. Appreciate you, Kyle. Trick says Tez Johnson or Parker Washington. Ooh, this one's interesting because Tez Johnson, Emeka Buka is back. Jalen McMillan's not going to be back for another few weeks, if at all. Mike Evans is looking like he's not going to be back this week. Potentially Chris Godwin, but that's not somebody that I'm necessarily worried about. You look at Parker Washington, and the thing that came out about Parker Washington this week is the fact that with Jacoby Myers, they're only going to be playing him at one of the outside receiver positions, leaving that slot position still held down for Parker Washington. So I think if you look, the other part of this that people aren't considering, so if the I don't like to rely on Trevor Lawrence and his arm because we all know how it's kind of been hit or miss this season. The part that I want to add is if Jacoby Myers is playing outside and like hypothetically, let's say that Brian Thomas Jr. is out here, then that means that Stingley is going to be covering Jacoby Myers, which means to me that Parker Washington is absolutely going to eat. And so I would lean into Parker Washington. Now, if you look at on the site, John Paulson would lean with Tez Johnson at this current moment on Wednesday as we are recording, going up against New England. The game script is probably going to be a little bit more favorable for this Patriots Tampa Bay to be a little bit more of a shootout than the Jacksonville Jaguars versus Houston, which might be a little bit more low scoring of a game. So if you want to lean into the overall game script and betting lines, then I think Tez Johnson would be the play tricks. But if you're asking me in my heart of hearts, I think Parker Washington's a guy that's going to be in line for 8 to 10 targets, whether BTJ is playing or not, because I just don't think the running game for the Jacksonville Jaguars is going to be able to get off the ground against this Houston front 4/7. We got Jude coming in here in the building. He said, I don't understand how the Saints are using Kamara between the tackles instead of passing in open field. Is Neal going to break out, though, this weekend? Jude, we appreciate you, bro. I need you over here in the YouTube community like ASAP, bro. So if you haven't already, make sure you come. And if anybody on X hasn't already, make sure you come over, check out the 4for4 Fantasy Football YouTube channel. If you've been subscribed to the old channel, we actually created this new channel this season just to have a little bit more just clarity on what's happening content-wise between myself, Addison, and John Paulson. There are still stuff that's happening on 4for4 Live. Absolutely great. So make sure you check out both channels as well as checking out, if you haven't already, check out the website. Like, I cannot say enough about the 4for4 website. There are so many cool tools, guys. Like, so many cool tools that you guys can use, whether it's rankings, whether it's the start sit. Like, there's the start sit tool and who should I start tool. I like week 1, I used this and I didn't think I was going to start Travis Etienne. And it, John Paulson's rankings told me to start Travis Etienne. I started Travis Etienne and I felt really good. And so I just recommend, if you guys haven't already, make sure that you guys check out the website because it is absolutely great. But Jude, to answer your question, it's dumb the way that they're using Alvin Kamara. I think a 30-year-old running back up between the gut does not necessarily scream the most efficiency. The fact that they held on to him is crazy to me that they didn't trade him away. I know he probably didn't want to be traded away because he just wants to end his career. This Carolina matchup, it's not terrible, but it's not great. I mean, if you look at the Vegas betting lines, they're saying that this Carolina Saints game is going to be, if like a bottom 2 scoring game this week, which is never good for a game script to be like, let's bank on Alvin Kamara. I think he's still a top 25 running back this week. So, but he's not where he's been. Historically, he's been a top 8, 12 points per game running back. In this matchup, I just don't think he is. Do I think it's going to be a Devin Neal breakout game? No, dude, I don't. Not that I don't think Devin Neal's good, because I do think if you would have talked to me on the DLF channel talking Dynasty this offseason, I very much so had Devin Neal as a top 10 running back pre-draft. The draft capital wasn't there. There isn't a lot of explosion that he has, but it's a lot of short area quickness. It's not like home run ability. He is a good pass catcher, though, but that's also dependent on if you have a quarterback that can check the ball down. And right now, between Tyler Shuck and Taysom Hill and Spencer Rattler, I just don't feel like this offense is really moving in the right direction. And especially getting rid of Shaheed, that's another part of this. That cool. Maybe you could assume that some of those targets go to Alvin Kamara. Cool. Maybe that happens. I feel like Juwan Johnson probably gets a little bit more involved. They probably get a little bit more gimmicky with Taysom Hill. Doesn't necessarily mean good things for Devin Neal. But Jude, I would start Alvin Kamara because you probably don't have any better options on this kind of bye weeks that are there this week. Anthony said it's Jers, Eagles, but I don't know why my home dude. I don't know why Jers. This is showing, bro. I didn't know that Jers. Okay. Well, yeah, that's weird. I don't know. Kyle said Mahomes, Puka, Rice, Chase Brown, Walker, Ladd, Wando Robinson. I need a running back. Any ideas? Thanks. Kyle. If you need to trade for a running back, I answer all questions here, bro. I answer all questions here, Kyle. So hopefully you're still here. I personally, if you need a running back, let's say you're pairing up, like Chase Brown isn't a bad, but I think Walker, dude, you just probably need to bite the bullet and send Walker. And I'd love to hold on to Ladd, but I mean, if you're asking me the 3 wide receivers I want, it's Pickens, it's Rice, it's Puka. So if you can trade Walker and Ladd, like you could probably, Ladd's probably a top 16 wide receiver rest of the season. So if you packaged him and Walker together, dude, you should be able to get into like an Achane, a Josh Jacobs. I don't think you can get into a Gibbs Cook. Maybe you could. Maybe you try for James Cook and Jahmyr Gibbs first. Even with the Cook injury, that's what I would try to do. But then I would try to target Devon Achane, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley if you can't get those top 2 guys. But I would do Ladd and Walker would be the 2 that I would kind of go for. Like I said, I'm answering every question here, guys. So keep firing them away. We got B Johnson 8820 in the house. He says PPR, flex spot, ETN, Tet McMillan, or Troy Franklin. Okay. I love me some Troy Franklin as much as any other guy here on the planet. But I think I would be dumb to tell you to start Troy Franklin. I understand he's been good. But he's a top 34 wide receiver for us this week. He's not somebody that I'm going to be like relying on. Now, Tet McMillan in this matchup, again, I also have a little bit lower. He's a top 25 wide receiver, but he's my wide receiver 25. And then when it comes to Travis Etienne, let me figure out where I got Etienne ranked this week. I just literally passed his name 5 times. I should probably just lock in and focus here. Because it is a juicy matchup for Travis Etienne. Yeah, I think in the sense that I think the volume's going to be there. Like I said, I'm a little bit worried about the offensive line playing against the Houston Texans defensive line. But I think you got to go Travis Etienne in this matchup just because the volume's going to be there over what we would say maybe like a Tet McMillan's going to get you. Yeah. That's a hard one, dude. That's a great question. But I think you got to lean into Travis Etienne there. Thanks, B Johnson. Appreciate you. We got Jers Eagles in the house. He said, I'm targeting Warren from another manager because I'm a little bit worried about Mark's production. The team that needs a wide receiver, and I'm willing to deal either BTJ, Parker Washington, or Alec. Dude, any of those guys? See ya. Give me Warren. I would do that in a heartbeat. Now, the BTJ discourse is a whole nother beast, dude. I'm actually a little bit sad for I am sad for BTJ because it's like he's been maybe the biggest bust in fantasy football this season. And my dumb butt drafted him everywhere in the middle of the second, the early part of the second. I had a league where I saw Drake London get picked a spot ahead of me, and I cheered because I got BTJ. Thought that guy was an idiot. That team, by the way, my first 2 picks were Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. Pour one out for me. That's exactly how I feel. I'm still in playoff contention somehow. But goodness gracious, yes. I would just say any of those guys, see ya. Now, if I could honestly hold on to BTJ and Parker Washington and Alec Pierce to get Jalen Warren, then that would be the way that I would go. But like being realistic, you probably are going to have to offer BTJ to get it done. You said I'll even throw a Marks for the cherry on top. Yeah, dude. Like if you need to get that done, but if you can probably even get a little bit better running back if you throw in Marks. You said I'm 4-5 PPR 12-man Herbert, Achane, Judkins, Abuka, Smitty, Gadsden, Marks, Pierce. I don't feel like I should be. Dude, to be honest, I don't think you should. You just dealt with injuries and bye weeks at unfortunate times. I would say this, like, dude, you're still in the hunt. So like I wouldn't do too much, honestly. If you can, like I said, if you can get Jalen Warren added to the squad and he can be your RB3 and you can put him in the flex, like 100%, there's a ton of value in that. But I also wouldn't like beat yourself up because I do think you have a really competitive squad here. See, what are some of the better defenses to target for the rest of the season opposed to week-to-week streaming? So See, I will be honest. So I put out like last week we did like the stash video, and I'm already planning the stash video where I like kind of give people defenses to look ahead at. I mean, honestly, like the Seahawks are probably the best like rest of season defense, but it also comes down to the fact that they're on bye next week. So it's like, do you want to hold the defense in your bye spot? Probably not. I mean, the Texans have pretty good matchups, and like the Rams, those would probably be like the top three defenses for me rest of the season. But I honestly feel like, see, you're gonna do better and gonna have better performance streaming week to week and playing the matchups than just relying on the defense. Like the Seahawks are really the only team this season that I can think of that are having consistent success against top tier offenses. And it's not because they're not giving up points. It really just comes down to they're getting a lot of turnovers and a lot of touchdowns. So they're making up for it, which is great. And that's great for our fantasy football scoring. But the matchups just aren't always the best. I lost last week because Judkins, Ibuka, Smitty were on bye. See, that's the thing, dude. When some of these bye weeks are just killing us. Just killing us. This week, like the Dallas being on bye is gonna absolutely kill me. But in one league where I have CeeDee Lamb, praise God, the other manager has Jamar Chase. So we're both hurting. We're both hurting this week. Dustin says, "What's up? Just received a trade offer. They want ETN for Sutton. My running backs would be Barkley, Dobbins, Wood, Benson whenever he comes back. Receivers would be Pittman, JSN, DJ Moore, Keenan, Sutton, 2 flex, PPR." So I can say this, like Travis Etienne he's a top 20 running back, and Cortland Sutton's also a top 20 wide receiver. I know there's a lot of Cortland Sutton stands out there, but I lean the running back here, especially with the 2 flex. I understand it's PPR. I understand there's a shot that Bashal Tootin could also take over. And so Dustin, I'm getting to your second question, but if I do this deal, I want to figure out how I can get Bashal Tootin on my team as well. You said he has Javonte Williams and Genty. Would you counter it with ETN and DJ for Javonte? Dude, I would do ETN and DJ. Yeah, for sure. If I could get Javonte, he's a top 10 running back rest of the season. 100%. 100%. Honestly, I would probably even do it. Like, I would even do it for Ashton Genty. I know that might be crazy. Ashton Genty, I mean, this back half second, I just think they're going to get him more involved. I think we started to see him, the 5 receptions that he had this last week. I understand it's game script dependent, but I think they're also going to get Ashton Genty more involved. I think Ashton Genty is a top 10 running back rest of the season as well. So I prefer Javonte, though, over if you ask me, like Javonte, Ashton Genty, Javonte. But if you can't get him, then I'd also be cool trying to get Ashton Genty on my team. Trick said, Theo stock it is. White worth playing again without Bucky. Yes, dude. Yes. I mean, you might potentially have like a better option than Rashad White, but they've just been using him so much, and going up against New England, like I said, I think this matchup is going to be a high scoring, which is going to put Rashad White in good opportunities in both the end zone and with PPR. I think he's a top 16 play this week. 100% there. Tricks are for kids. We got Kyle up here. He said, recently traded Parker Washington and Adunze for Garrett Wilson and traded Dart and Monty for Brees and DJ Moore. Did I make mistakes here? Recently traded Parker Washington and Adunze for Garrett Wilson. I mean, I think most people have Rome Odunze pretty close to Garrett Wilson. I have Rome Odunze a little bit higher. So Parker Washington, you probably got off flex, and like you weren't planning on using him, then like I understand the trade bait there. I would have tried to get maybe a little bit better wide receiver. Like, could that have netted you Nico Collins or George Pickens? Probably not after the net last week, like the 0 point, but if you did that a little bit ahead of time. So Kyle, be honest, that first deal I don't love, but I also like, if you're a Jay Willie believer and we're just hoping that Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor is just going to pepper him with targets when he's back healthy, we can lean into that. And then you said I traded Dart and Monty for Brees and DJ Moore. I think we talked about this. We talked about this other deal. And so I do think the Dart and Monty for Brees and DJ Moore, I know you already had a pretty good quarterback. So I would lean into that second deal. I like that first deal. I feel like you could have gotten something better for Rome Odunze, but maybe people were scared off after that terrible performance that he had in week 9. So understand if you couldn't have gotten anything better. But you said 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex. Who are you starting? Genty, Hall, G. Willie, St. Brown, Puka, D. Smith, Marks. Okay, let's just assume Puka's playing, though. So we'll start off. I'd go with Genty, and then I would go with Hall. Then I would go with Puka, and then I would go with St. Brown. That's pretty standard. Then I would go with Devontae Smith, and then I would go. There's potential that it's a Woody Marks week. So this is what I will say, Kyle. This last spot is between Jay Willie and Woody Marks. We're also kind of waiting to see if Garrett Wilson's going to play this week. I'm assuming he's going to play. So I guess we're talking through two injury kind of scenarios right now. If there's no Nick Chubb, you are clearly going with Woody Marks over Garrett Wilson. But if Nick Chubb does play, then I would lean with Garrett Wilson over Woody Marks, if that makes sense. So I would go Genty, Hall, St. Brown, Puka, Devontae Smith, Woody Marks, assuming there's no Nick Chubb. Trick said Aaron Jones and Woody Marks, should one get dropped for White? Ooh. It depends on how desperate you are. I mean, if you're looking at like rest of season rankings, dude, I don't think I can drop either one of those guys. Maybe you could argue Woody Marks, but if there's no Nick Chubb, dude, this is like a Woody Marks week. This is like Woody Marks, you were supposed to break out. You didn't break out. Nick Chubb came back and stole cookies from you. If there's no Nick Chubb, we could be talking about Woody Marks. This is like the actual breakout. Now, if I needed production this week, I do lean, even if there's no Nick Chubb, I would lean Rachaad White over Woody Marks. So if you have to drop one of them, Tricks, like I would hold Aaron Jones. I feel like anytime we have seen Aaron Jones out there on the field, they prefer Aaron Jones to Jordan Mason. Even though I don't necessarily agree with it, that's how it looks. And so I would hold on to Aaron Jones and I would drop Woody Marks if I needed a play this week. But that's also very short-sighted because we're assuming Bucky Irving is going to be back in week 11 and therefore then kind of makes Rachaad White mute and void. Kyle said, this is what I'm trying to upgrade a little RB. I could do Odunze anymore. Oh, you couldn't do Odunze. Dude, I understand. I understand you had to get out. Like, I get it. The up and downs, dude, of having Odunze has been frustrating. I just feel like you could have maybe gotten something better, added a better piece to just cheer up enough to just get a better player. But maybe my valuation of Rome Odunze is wrong. And, like, your league was, like, viewing him like he was Travis Hunter before he broke out, you know, like the plague. Destin says, do you think that counter would be worth it or would you keep it in my lineup? Do you think that counter would be worth it or would you keep my lineup? What was your counter? Yes, would you counter it with ET? Yes, I would counter, dude. I would counter because if you can get Barkley and Javonte, dude, like down the stretch, just having two RB1s is going to help you out so much. Because DJ Moore, as much as also same kind of thing with Rome Odunze, like the inconsistencies. We don't know if it's going to be a DJ Moore week or Rome Odunze week or Coastal 11 week. I think Luther Burden down the stretch is going to even eat into Zacchaeus and DJ Moore's overall snap shares. So that's just, I would get out. I would get out on DJ Moore, and I think just attaching him to ETN to help get a promotion at running back would definitely help you, bro. Yeah, Dustin, appreciate it, dude. Thanks for tuning in. And Kyle, I understand, couldn't do Odunze. He just could not do Odunze. But we have reached the end of the queue. So if you still have questions, make sure you fire these bad boys away. We are currently streaming on X. We are streaming on YouTube. And so if you want your start state question answered on either platform, make sure to fire those questions away. We're answering every start state question. But as always, we are growing the Fantasy Football 4for4 Fantasy Football YouTube channel. And so if you want to take a shot and come over and check out all the content that we have, make sure you come over and subscribe. Like I said, we're live right now, but we've had a ton of videos. We've already had 3 videos drop this week, giving you some trade targets. We've done kicker rankings. We've done defensive rankings because, listen, there's a ton of people out there in the space that are putting out running back rankings, wide receiver rankings, tight end rankings, quarterback rankings. You can get all of those rankings on the 4for4 website. If you use code YouTube, it gets you 25% off of the 4for4 plans rest of season. Absolutely recommend it. So you can get your John Paulson rankings going through your running backs, wide receivers. If you want to hear my thoughts on your defense and kickers, those are available for free on the Fantasy 4for4 Fantasy Football YouTube page. And we want, like I said, We're answering all start sit questions here this season. Want you guys here in the community. Now we got Drake up in here. Drake Meredith coming in with a question. He said, PPR 2 flex league. I have Debo, Addison, Hall, Warren, Keenan Allen. Which two do I start? Oh, bro. Oh, goodness, bro. You have some good options. I understand some of these are very, very closely related. Warren would be my number one. I think this is a juicy matchup for Jaylen Warren going up against the Chargers. I'm a little bit worried too, like about the Chargers without Joe Alt. We'll have to see. Like, I'm sure they're going to continue to air the ball out, but I just think this is going to be a good enough game script where both teams, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, are going to have to put up some points. And maybe I'm saying that their defense isn't as great, but I personally would lean Jaylen Warren here as my first. And then my second, I would just lean into Debo. I think he's going to get enough volume, especially with no Scary Terry. This running game's not going to be able to get it going. I would lean into Debo here. But it's close for me between Breece Hall and Debo, Drake. But I would go with Warren and Debo. Gio, appreciate you. You said picked up Dart in my PPR league since JT died. Good long-term hold. Also have Stafford available. Yeah, I would lean into Jackson Dart over Matthew Stafford. I understand that Matthew Stafford is playing in an absolutely electric level offense. Like anybody, if you told me which offense is better, you're going to say the Rams 100%. But the floor that you have with Jackson Dart rushing, it seems like he's just getting a rushing TD each and every week. And even if he only rushes for 35, 40 yards, like 4 fantasy points for a quarterback is a lot that then you can consider when he's still throwing the ball at a pretty efficient clip. So personally for me, I would lean with Jackson Dart, and especially like this week, Jackson Dart to me is a top 7 quarterback, like top 7 for sure. Matthew Stafford is probably a top 12 with this San Francisco matchup. So I lean into Jackson Dart this week and long term. Easy. Appreciate you being here. Said dynasty wise. Okay, easy. I will say this. We have a parent channel that me and Addison make content on. It's called DLF, Dynasty League Football. Check out the DLF channel. We're putting out videos over there as well. But you said Adonai, AD Mitchell, or Malik Washington. Ooh, this one's hard because I've been a Malik Washington truther. I told a lot of people to stash him on the dynasty teams. I think my issue is he hasn't emerged any more than a kind of like a scat wide receiver, like that level of like the way that Turpin's used for the Cowboys, where he can put up weeks, but it's going to take a lot. And even with the Tyreek Hill injury, I've just been unimpressed with him not being able to take more of the overall receiving share. Now, when it comes to AD Mitchell, I think a lot of times we see a second round rookie get drafted into a system and we're like, man, this guy he can't get on the field, especially rookie year. We see the dumb move of him, of course, dropping the ball before scoring, having that kind of dumb play. And you kind of just are like, man, like he maybe is just not good because he can't beat up Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs. But what we're currently seeing is, wow, this Colts wide receiver room definitely is underrated. And so with this new opportunity for him, I'm not saying that AD Mitchell is going to explode because I don't necessarily feel like he's maybe fully matured in his route running, but he does do super well on vertical routes. And Justin Fields, like that's one of the main things that Justin Fields can throw. I didn't say he throws it accurately, but that would be the thing when you're looking at the fact that it's been pretty much Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor and nobody else. Like Arian Smith, who got drafted for them in the top 5 rounds this year, he sucked. Malachi Corley sucks. Like everybody for the Jets on this Jets offense kind of sucks besides Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and Mason Taylor. So I think if I had to give it a guy that could just have some sort of value, then I would lean into AD Mitchell. Easy, but definitely check out the 4for4. You're already on 4for4, but check out the DLF YouTube channel as well. Kyle said, good luck, bro. By the way, my Eagles fantasy team I made still undefeated even through the bye week. Dude, look at you go. Look at you go. Trick said Gibbs hurt me last week. Yeah, he hurt me too. My dynasty team, the only reason I was able to make it through was because of Drake London. But yeah, goodness, the way that they're using Gibbs this year is a little bit interesting because he's getting more snap share, or he was, but now we're starting to see David Montgomery like eat back into it. But he's just losing a lot of these valuable touches, and we're even seeing like less pass catching for him, which just like that was one of the reasons he was so good because he was getting all these like outside carries slash, he was getting the PPR receptions, which was helping him. And then it was a little frustrating that he wasn't getting the goal line work. But like this year, like the first few weeks, we were like, oh wow, he's getting the goal line work too. And then they've just kind of pulled it back. And so that's just kind of my opinion. Ray, dude, I haven't not Ray, bro. I feel like I haven't seen you in a hot minute. So it is good to see you, bro. You said I offered my Tyler Warren for Lamar Jackson. I just lost Daniels and I have no backup QB. Still my backup tight end and Goddard person I'm trading with lost craft. Should I accept? I offered my Tyler Warren for Lamar Jackson. I just lost Daniels and no backup QB. Still my backup tight end. Goddard. Yeah, in a standard league, listen, it's hard for me to tell you to give up Tyler Warren, who's a top 3 tight end, but I think it's in a 6 point passing touchdown. You're getting Lamar Jackson's a top 2 QB. So yeah, Ray, dude, yeah, bro, you should remember me. Subscribe to this channel, bro. I'm going live every Wednesday, and I answer all the comments. Yeah, I got this year I got hired by 4for4. So yeah, bro, come on, remember me, bro. I answered a lot of your Star State questions, bro, but I appreciate you. I would do it. Lamar Jackson for sure is the way to go. That's the way that I want to go here. You said also sending away either Waddle or Sutton. I have lots of wide receivers. Yeah, I mean, hopefully not in this same deal because I feel like Tyler Warren for Lamar Jackson is probably pretty fair. If you're sending away, like I would want to hold Waddle. I could give away Sutton, but if you're giving away Sutton and Tyler Warren for Lamar Jackson, I need something else coming back. But let me know what that trade is kind of looking like. Appreciate you, Ray. Josiah Alvarado, appreciate you being here. You said trade Henry for Emeka, but I'm stuck with Tracer or Rico Dowdle as my RB2, and I have JT on bye next week. Yeah. Josiah, give me more of your team, dude. I can't answer this based on just like, this is my running back depth. Should I take Emeka Ibuka? Because I think Emeka Ibuka is a top 10 wide receiver. But Derrick Henry for me, especially with Lamar Jackson back, is a top 10 running back rest of the season. And so I feel like you have to, in this circumstance, especially knowing where we're at in the season, running backs win you a championship. Not to say that like Emeka Ibuka can't pop off, but like the things that we also have to consider is Mike Evans is potentially coming back down the stretch. Chris Godwin, I'm not saying that he's going to perform well, but he's going to take away some snap share. I just like, I'm a little bit not nervous about Emeka Ibuka because I still think Emeka Ibuka is amazing. He's a wide receiver 1. I just think the high end upside, what's going to win you a fantasy football championship is going to be having these running backs. But Josiah, type out your team, dude, and then I'll give you an exact answer. And like I said, Ray, appreciate seeing you. Trick said Denver Rams, Colts defense, rest of season, keep 2. If I have to keep 2 rest of season, ooh. I mean, it's hard for me to say the Colts. I understand the Colts added Sauce, so it's juicy. I think the Rams have to be number 1. Their matchups down the line are pretty good. But then I think you got to go Broncos. I'm just not convinced. I just think I understand the back end now is very solidified with Sauce Gardner for the Colts. I just don't know how this is going to help. Like, it's going to, of course, like bolster them from a fantasy football perspective and hopefully get them more turnovers by having now what I would consider 2 really solid lockdown corners on the outside. I just don't think with the matchups and the game scripts coming up that I think I lean more into the Rams and then the Broncos rest of the season. Okay, Josiah comes in, gives me his full rundown. So what we got wide receivers are Amon-Ra, Keenan, Moore, Downs, running backs, JT, Henry, Mark, Tracy. If I do Henry for Mecca, I would need to find another RB2. Maybe trade away Keenan and Tracy. Yeah, so Josiah, this is what I would say. I mean, based on this team, dude, I don't feel good about your wide receivers. Like, just point out blank. I feel like you can get by having a weak RB2 spot. The part that you're going to get hosed on, though, is if something happens to JT, and I'm knocking on wood because I have plenty of JT shares. So I would 100% do this. Do the first deal. And then if you're looking for another running back, like I said, if you're packaging Keenan Allen and Tracy. I know Tracy didn't have a great day this last week, but he is like a starting running back in the NFL right now. Where you'd probably be looking at, like, could I package Tracy and Keenan Allen, and could I get into Kenneth Walker? That might be too high. If you can't get Kenneth Walker, could I get into an RJ Harvey or Ramondre Stevenson? Like, those would be the type of guys that I would try to target if I could get, package Tracy and Keenan Allen. I know it's not great. Keenan Allen, with the additions of Gadsden, with seeing like Trey Harris starting to step up, you still have Quentin Johnson and Ladd. Like, there's just so many mouths to feed in this Chargers offense that it's going to be hard for you to feel really comfortable with him as your wide receiver too. So I feel like you solidify having Amon-Ra, Emeka, and Moore as your kind of top 3 wide receivers. And then if you could just get a better RB2 that is like Ramondre. I understand he's got turf toe. He's probably out this week, so you're going to have to wait another week. But we've seen that he just loves okay, actually, Josiah, thank you for coming in here. I'm over here like ranting and saying, oh, get this guy. Holy crap. If you can get a Martin in Hampton, bro, listen, we might be streaming. We might need to be praying to the gods that we get another waiver wire RB2. Listen, Josiah, what's your record? Let me know what your record is. The reason I say this, I think I do it, dude. Because Hampton comes back. I understand the injury was a little bit more intense than we were hoping for. And there's a chance that it's more of a split with Vidal. But I think with your team, as long as we are like, we're not like 3-5. If we're like 5-5 or 5-4, I feel pretty confident because we hopefully get the win this week, Josiah. And then if you can just take an L with JT out next week, oh, you're 6-3. Oh, Josiah, bro, come on. If you get the win this week, you're 7-3. You lose 7-4, and you have like 3 weeks or 2 weeks to make up for it. So as long as we can get you in that 9 wins, like this is how you have to do it. You need to like 3 wins to like guarantee your playoff spot. Really, you could probably get in with 8, but just to be safe, 9. And Josiah, this is also me saying this. I think it's important to get a bye, but I also, at the end of the day, I just want you in the playoffs. We just need a shot at this thing. And I would rather have a shot with Hampton as my RB2. So I would do that Hampton deal for sure. Get Emeka, because the thing that you're not thinking about is my wide receivers are now better. Like I have Emeka, and then could Hampton give me similar level production down the stretch to Derrick Henry, or even like 1.8 to Derrick Henry's 2? Yes, I think it'd be close enough, Josiah. So I would do the deal. Mr. Least, appreciate you being here. You said trade Puka, Swift, Gadsden for Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Chase Brown, PPR redraft. Oh, brother. Okay. Puka's over Lamb, but like CeeDee Lamb's still a top 3 wide receiver for me the rest of the season. Garrett Wilson is over Swift, clearly. I think Kyle Monangai is going to be eating into it. It's going to be a 50-50 split when he's out. And then Gadsden, Chase Brown, that's pretty even at this point. I mean, Gadsden is playing out of his mind, but can he keep it up? Whole other question. And I just think the running back position, depending, Mr. Least, assuming that you have, I think the trade on the right is like more of what your team probably needs. You probably need like an RB2, RB3 level player with Chase Brown, which helps your depth. You get another wide receiver in Garrett Wilson that can play in a flex spot, and then you get CeeDee Lamb. Saying it's never great to trade away the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football. Like you're giving up the best asset. But Puka Nacua has also been battling these injuries. I understand the ankle sprain for CeeDee Lamb, like they've both been kind of injured, but we also, I feel like, haven't seen the ceiling. Now, I was hoping that this matchup versus the Cardinals was going to be the matchup that we needed to push CeeDee Lamb like back to like wide receiver 2, maybe even compete with Puka for wide receiver 1 rest of the season. That did not happen, but I still think this offense, the Dallas Cowboys are going to be putting up points. They're going to have to throw the ball a ton. So, Mr. Least, I would do the team on the right because I just think you're getting an advantage on your overall roster, 100%. But appreciate you, Mr. Least. We got Jack Black as the profile picture, which we love. And yes, Josiah, appreciate you, bro. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. And we got Tingley up here. Shout out to Tingley joining in on the fun over here on this Wednesday night. And like I said, guys, we are probably streaming for another 5-ish minutes. So make sure you throw those start sit questions into the chat. We absolutely appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in here tonight. And like I said before, if you're over on the 4for4 X page, just scrolling X, tuning into this live, make sure you come over and check out the 4for4 football YouTube channel. We are posting content each and every day. We're answering your start state questions over here. Me and Addison are putting in a lot of work. We also got John Paulson coming in every Friday for the Most Accurate Podcast with Addison. So I want to make sure that you guys are tuned in into that. And we're growing this channel slowly but surely. This was a brand new channel that we started this year. And so we want to make sure that you guys are getting all the information that you need. Like I said, it's totally free. All we ask is if you come over, you sit it, give us a subscribe, let us answer a question for you. We absolutely appreciate you guys as we're hopefully helping you guys get into your fantasy football playoffs and win a fantasy football championship in 2025. Now, we go back into Jers. Eagles says they want Smitty and Marks for Warren. I don't know if I can do that. Dude, that's way too much. Smitty's worth way more than Warren. If you're looking to trade away good old Smitty, like I said, if like I was to give away Smitty and Marks, I would be looking at somebody probably like a little bit more like a Judkins type, maybe Rico Dowdle, Brees Hall. I just don't think I can do it for Warren. So you can tell that guy to kick rocks. 100%, yeah. And there's a chance too that Smitty, like where I have him ranked rest of the season, like there's a chance that Smitty's a wide receiver one rest of the season and completely like dominates AJ Brown just with how he's been playing. Gio said definitely start Chuba if Rico doesn't play right. Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean if it's going to be the full Chuba Hubbard workload, then yeah, I mean I don't think he's not as good as Rico Dowdle. Like I don't know how the Cowboys just let Rico Dowdle walk away in free agency. And listen, they got Javonte Williams, so clearly they know how to get these guys from the mud and get them playing good. But if for some reason Rico Dowdle is not going to be a go this week, then yeah, he would probably Chuba Hubbard's going to slide. Let me see. So like Rico Dowdle right now is sliding in as like a top 7 option this week versus New Orleans. I don't think I could push him that high if we're specifically talking about Chuba Hubbard, but I do think Chuba Hubbard would at least push into like that RB, probably like 16, 17, 18 category, like in the Ashton Genty, Brees Hall, Vidal, Trayvon Henderson. I'm ranking Henderson like Ramondre's not playing this week, but in that kind of sort of range. She said, I'm only here for Caleb. LOL. I appreciate you. You said, I'll go tell him to eat my short. Dude, I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning into the Caleb content. Like I said, there's a little bit of different flavor for anybody on this channel. So whatever you need, that is what we are here to give. Tingley said, assuming they are starting, should I start Henderson or White? I would start Rachaad White. I'd love to start Henderson. You know, I think I will be like I have him in the flex in one of my leagues because I'm assuming he's playing. And you know, it wasn't a bad like week. He had 75% of the snapshot last week, but man, they just love themselves from Jennings, and they just almost hate Henderson. Like they're not giving him the full potential value. But if it's PPR, dude, I would go with Rachaad White 100%. And Anthony said, wait, Rico isn't playing. He is questionable with a quad injury. Now that could 100% be going away over here over these next few weeks, but not few weeks, but next few days, we have to monitor the practice report. Like I said, Tuesday, Wednesday practice reports, we just have to monitor that. But hopefully the day that it really matters is going to be on Friday. Like if Rico is still questionable on Friday, we're probably not going to feel super great about him going into the Sunday game, but that is going to be something that you guys have to monitor if you do have Rico Dowdle. I think if Rico Dowdle plays, he's a top 10 play easily, but that is going to be something that we have to consider kind of over these next few days. And one of the downsides to me streaming on Wednesday is a lot of these injury news, like I don't have the latest updates. So if I tell you a start sit question with some of these players that are injured or potentially questionable, that is something that we have to monitor. But you guys have been absolutely great tonight, letting me throw out all my questions to you. We got 10 people up here in the YouTube chat. Last week we only had 5. So you guys definitely helping me, giving me questions to answer. You said because the guy gave Chuba 2 drops, so I'm about to, yeah, 100%. Go, pick up Chuba Hubbard. At least good news, you'd have a starting running back this week, no matter what happens over there. But we have a ton of people. We have 494 people tuning in over on the X page. And I always don't know, are these bots? Are these real people tuning in over here? But if you're one of the real people, make sure you put a question in the chat. I will go back through on X and answer that for you, as well as if you haven't already, we got a ton of great people in the community. As you can see, we got great people just coming in here, like Anthony saying, another great stream, bro. And we want you here in the community because we're trying to grow this page. We're trying to grow this channel by just providing the best content in the fantasy football space. And the only way we're going to continue to do this is by having you guys asking great questions, you guys telling us what content you want. It's absolutely amazing. And the last and final piece is if you haven't already checked out the 4for4 fantasy football YouTube page, this has been my secret sauce for the last few years. And so that's why I had to join 4for4 to come over, help make some content because there is rankings, there are start sits, there are tools, there's articles, there's like a ton of people that I've respected for a long time that are doing absolutely great work over here. And so I've been super happy to be able to join this amazing company. Now we go into Geo. Said I also dropped marks for Trey Tucker just to cuff him. Also thinking about grabbing Shaheed. Yes, I would grab Shaheed. Trey Tucker is an interesting one because, I mean, you're assuming he's like the wide receiver one, but that's really Brock Bowers. I think Brock Bowers gets like a 38% target share this week. I think he pops off again. I understand it's a rough matchup versus the Denver Broncos, but I do lean into this overall offense, and Trey Tucker would be fine. But I do prefer Shaheed. Like, if you ask me, like Shaheed over Trey Tucker. But there's potential that Marks is a bell cow this week. So, Gia, that's something to monitor too. Jude said, in a flex PPR, who would you start, Mason Taylor or Torrey Horton? Dude, I understand it's a short week, so Shaheed, I don't know how much of the offense he's going to know with Cooper Kupp also covering. People are like, hey, it's Torrey Horton week. I'm lean more into Mason Taylor. Again, it's a matchup versus Cleveland. I don't know how healthy Garrett Wilson's going to be this week after coming off the injury. A.D. Mitchell, it's a short week too, so I don't think he's going to be super, super involved. So I think it's Mason Taylor. I think the volume is Mason Taylor. And Jude said, X kept knocking you out. Oh, dude, I'm sorry, bro. Thanks for coming over, though, Jude. Thanks for coming over to the YouTube. Like I said, we appreciate you. But I would go personally. I would go with Mason Taylor this week, Jude. Bitcoiner said, K. Dotton or Musgrave going forward as Kraft replacement. I think this is two different questions in the sense that this week in particular, I would lean more into K. Dotton over Musgrave. I just think it's a little bit better of a pass environment. But if you ask me like rest of season who I prefer, I think this is kind of like, I don't want to say tongue in cheek, but I would lean into Musgrave over K. Dotton rest of season. So it kind of depends on Bitcoiner where you're leaning. Like if I need it, then I lean Musgrave rest of the season. I guess it's close enough. But like you said, anyone else, I mean, is AJ Barner available too? That would be someone that I would look to go. You probably missed out on Colston Loveland. I think Colston Loveland's only going to continue to rise. Like if like, I'll just start listing names that I have above Musgrave right now. Like Colston Loveland, Henry, Mark Andrews. I would even do Ertz. I know the Jane Daniels injury is brutal, but Marcus Mariota, Pepper, Zach Ertz with targets, Mason Taylor, Barner, Theo Johnson. Like those are guys that I do prefer over Musgrave because I don't necessarily feel like it's just like a 1-to-1. Tucker Kraft was an anomaly, dude. Like he's the closest thing to George Kittle I've seen where he blocks extremely well. And then he's super, great in the pass game. Whereas Luke Musgrave really struggles in the block game. And so even if they run more 12 personnel, like I don't necessarily feel like that means that the targets are just going to all of a sudden go from Kraft to Musgrave. I could be wrong. I know they drafted Musgrave ahead of Kraft a few years ago, but that doesn't mean anything. Kraft has developed into this year was a top 5 tight end. And I don't think Musgrave is necessarily that. I think the play that's going to happen Bitcoiner in this Green Bay Packers offense is we're going to be looking a little bit more at Christian Watson getting a little bit more of the target share, Romeo Doubs getting a little bit more of the target share. And then eventually, hopefully over the next week or two, we're going to see Jaden Reed make his return. And I think the Kraft injury actually benefits Jaden Reed the most. So this is also like my advice. Like I just picked up Jaden Reed, threw him in my IR spot. Someone dropped him. Like 100%. Go check out if Jaden Reed's out there because we saw him absolutely pop off in that week 1 game before the collarbone injury. And I understand it might take him a little bit of time to get reacclimated and we might not feel comfortable putting Jaden Reed into your starting lineup, but I do think he's a guy that has a ton of high-end upside rest of the season, especially with no Tucker Kraft. Chandler comes in here. He said, would you trade away Rico and Worthy for Saquon and Warren? Yes, Chandler, I would. In PPR? Oh, for sure, bro. Give me Saquon because I have him above Rico rest of the season. and then Warren and Worthy are close, but then I lean the running back in. I think Chandler, with you being able to get 2 running backs back to back, and especially with us heading into the most brutal and most important part of the season, you need to have running back depth, because all it takes is one injury to your RB1, to your RB2, and all of a sudden you're in here throwing out a bum. Like, if you felt like you were throwing, like, if Zach Charbonnet's your RB3, you don't feel great about it. You know what I mean? Like, so if you can just have that depth where you have, ideally 2 studs at your running back position and then like an upside, instead of that upside being your RB2, you feel really great about it. So I would lean into the Saquon and Warren side there. Then Gio said, oh, definitely going to drop Tucker for Reed, dropping Jade. Yeah. Jaden Daniels potentially could come back this season, but Gio, you probably are going to be able to find a comparable, quarterback that can string. Like, is Jackson Dart out there? Because like that'd be somebody that I'd want. He's probably maybe not on waivers anymore. But you should be able to find somebody that provides some sort of that value at your quarterback spot if you're going to need a backup. I don't know who your current starting quarterback is, but yeah, I would. If things continue to slide the way they're sliding for the Commanders, I don't know how they bring back, Jaden Daniels in like a lost season. And then Chandler said the tight end. The tight end. Chandler, I don't know what you mean. You might have just fired away. PPR, would you? But I agree. Yeah, Saquon and Warren would be the way that I would go. Oh, Warren's tight end. Warren's your tight end. Yeah, dude. That's the way that I would go. I would go with that Saquon and Warren tight end. Oh, would you trade? Yeah, for sure, dude. I thought it was Jalen Warren. Tyler Warren's even better, bro. Like, that's even more of a fleece. So 100% do the Saquon and Tyler Warren side. That's the one I want. Thanks for clarifying that. I was in the mindset. I was like, oh, it can't be Tyler Warren. It's too good. Good trade, bro. We got Gio said Dart isn't because I got, dude. Oh, if you got Dart, bro, yeah. See you, Jaden Daniels. I think Dart is a top 7 QB rest of the season. So you got to feel good about it. I understand he's not throwing to anybody great, but he's making it work. The only thing, Gio, that I will say is we got to be worried about these injuries. If he keeps taking hits like he's been taking, that is the only downside that could potentially happen with Jackson Dart. Is, I know football's a violent game. I know Joe Burrow, who's not like a scrambling quarterback, got knocked out for this, essentially the whole season. I am a little bit worried that he's going to just keep taking these hits and it's not going to do him great, and potentially like, a mid-game injury just could ruin your week and hand you an L. But I do have Jackson Dart high enough because I think the Konami Code quarterback upside, where he has a rushing ability I didn't really think thought he had. And he's got a passing ability, and the way he can just maneuver in the pocket, I just wish he had better weapons, honestly, Gio. So those are my thoughts there when it comes to Jackson Dart. But everybody, absolutely appreciate everyone for tuning in to this 4for4 live stream. We went 8 minutes over because I wanted to answer all your guys' questions. So we will be back again next week. Another video drops on Friday. Tomorrow's Thursday Night Football. We got my mustache video coming out on Saturday. So absolutely appreciate it. And yes, the CTE buddies for Jackson Dart and Scattaboo. But we appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like I said, hit a like on your way out. If you guys have any final questions, make sure you leave them on the other videos. If you haven't already checked out the channel, make sure you go check out the channel. I'm going to highlight this. I put out what I thought were pretty good videos on kicker rankings and defensive rankings. So if you need to make sure that you have the best kicker and defense this week, make sure you check out those 2 videos that I put out. These are new videos that we've been doing. Like I talked to Addison about this. We want to make sure that we're providing you guys content that nobody else really is. There's not a lot of other people that are putting out kicker rankings, that are putting out defensive rankings. I have a model. I put the projections. I put the game scripts in the sense of what the over-unders, the money lines are when it comes to these games. I put weather implications, and I have this on this historical model for both defense and for kickers. And then I spew this all in each and every week. And then it spews me out what kickers to use, what defenses to use. I feel like it's been pretty accurate so far. Like I said, it's not absolutely perfect. No model is perfect, but I 100% would recommend that you guys go check out the kicker or defensive rankings video over here on the 4for4 Fantasy Football channel. But enough of that. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Have a great night, and I will catch you guys all on the next one. Appreciate you.